change of venue today, if you notice. I'm in the community centre opposite my house, which for those of you who know, that's my other job. So I thought I'd come and do it in here for you today, just so you have a little change of scenery, feel like you've gone somewhere different. Today I'm going to do a reformer-inspired mat class. Obviously a lot of you are missing your reformer classes, and I thought it would be quite nice to do something kind of along those lines to make you feel like you're getting that reformer workout. It can all be adapted, so if any of the things that I'm doing obviously aren't suitable for you, I'll keep you posted as we go along, and I'll give you those modifications where you need them. The equipment that I've got today is a chair, but again you can do this without a chair. I'm sure you've all got a chair at home. I've got 2 little dumbbells. These are 1 kilo weights, but if you've not got any dumbbells at home, you can do the workout without, or you can do them with a can of beans or some sort of soup or something that you've got in your cupboards. A can generally weighs about ½ kilo, so that's a really good thing to start with if you haven't got any dumbbells. And I've also got my resistance band today, which I'm going to use for some feet in strap work, or to mimic some feet in strap work. But again, you can do this without the band. I can give you a single leg variation just to kind of reduce the load a little bit if the double legs is too much. So let's kind of go with that. I'm going to start by using my feet onto the chair, as if I was placing my feet on the foot bar on the reformer, or kind of on the top edge of the jump board. But if you haven't got a chair, or if you feel that that's too high for your pelvis, if you prefer to modify it, then you can do this with your feet flat on the floor instead, and you can just copy all the same exercises, just at a kind of lower angle. So if that works better for you, please feel free to do that instead. So I'm going to start by laying down onto my back, just keeping my equipment nice and close. And when I'm laying down here, I want my legs to be at the right angle. So if you remember when we're on the reformer, we like to keep our knees over our hips, so that we're in those nice heavy thigh bones sinking right down into the hip sockets. So I'm looking for that lovely 90-degree angle. And a little bit of space between the legs, about a tennis ball gap between the knees, and my arms down by my side. Now I'm going to have my palms facing down into the floor, just because when I go into my bridge, it gives me a little bit more lift as I press my arm down. But if you prefer to open up, if it feels more comfortable in your shoulder, then adjust which feels better for you. And all I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to allow my legs to float. So I'm going to bring the knees a little bit towards me, going into that nice deep crease of the hip. Going into a nice deep flexion here as I allow my knees just to move. So I'm coming a little bit closer towards me. Going for about 8 repetitions. So I'm decreasing that 90-degree angle as I bring that knee in towards the chest. I'm keeping my collarbones nice and wide, so I want to feel my chest opening, the back of the ribs down into the mat underneath me. So remember that X that we like to talk about, that goes from the shoulder down to the pelvis, that X right in the centre, just below those ribs, just dropping down into the mat. And then I'm going to rest my legs here into the chair. Now this is really nice, having the chair for support when we come to do the kind of arm in straps imitation, because it just kind of takes a little bit of pressure off the hip flexors. So it's a really nice little support. And you can always add challenge when we're doing that anyway. So I'm here resting down into the mat, breathing out. I'm just going to go into a little quick pelvic tilt. So I'm allowing my lower back to press into the mat, and then I'm tipping my pelvis the opposite way. Remember, I like to think of that marble rolling in between my legs and then rolling down in towards my belly button. So I'm just allowing a little bit more space at my lower back, and then allowing my lower back to press into the mat, almost imprint into it. I can feel my head dragging a little bit, where my head is connected into my spine and my spine is connected into my pelvis. And I'm just allowing my body to move as it wants to. So that may be a big arch, it may be a smaller arch for some of you. I'm thinking about reaching my fingertips long so I can feel my shoulders just lengthening away from my ears. And then I'm going to tip back into that little imprint into the mat. Now from here I'm going to press down through my heels. I'm going to start to heel my spine away from the floor, and I'm going to reach my kneecaps forwards. Now this is really kicking into the back of my hamstrings. I'm using my glutes to lift me up, but I can feel the back of my legs really working here. And then I'm going to breathe out. I'm going to slowly soften my spine back into the floor as I melt gradually back into the mat. So if you think of your spine stuck to your mat like a piece of Velcro, and you're going to peel it away and then you're going to stick it back into it. So again, I'm breathing out as I roll back, starting to peel up, reaching those kneecaps forwards, feeling the front of my hips lengthen, just noticing where my ribs are, whether I'm popping them up or arching, whether I can drop those ribs in a little bit, and then breathing out again as I roll all the way back down. And I'm going to go for about 2 more. So that lovely breath in, breath out to roll away. So this feels quite intense, especially as I'm on my heels, and I can really feel the back of the legs working. And I'm going to go just for 1 more. So as I come up, I'm reaching my fingertips long, keeping my chest wide, dropping my ribs in, and then breathing my spine back down. Now on my next one, I'm going to stay up at the top. Remember, you don't have to be on the chair, you can rest on the floor with your feet instead if that's better. And I'm going to peel my spine away, reach my kneecaps, open up the front of my hips. Now I'm thinking of my pelvis like a typewriter. I don't want to dip the hips from side to side, I want to keep them level, but I want to shift my typewriter to the right, and then I'm going to come back to centre. I'm going to shift my typewriter to the left and come back to centre. And then from here I'm going to roll down just a couple of vertebrae, and then I'm going to go again. I'm going to shift my typewriter to the right, back to centre, shift it to the left, back to centre, and roll down a couple more vertebrae. So we're just getting movement into different parts of the spine. I'm going to shift my pelvis to the right and back to centre. Remember to use that breath to aid. To the left and back to centre. Now this is really testing on the legs. And I'm coming just, so I'm hovering just above the mat now. I'm shifting to the right and back to centre, trying to keep those hips nice and level. Back to the left, to centre, and then I'm going to roll all the way back into the mat. I can feel my legs just letting go at this point. So for my last variation here, I'm going to roll my spine up and I'm going to go into those little knee floats, just as we practiced before as our first exercise for class. So I'm going to go back into my pelvic tilt, rolling my pelvis back, marble down towards my belly button. I'm going to roll my pelvis away, reaching my kneecaps, opening up my hips. Now I'm pausing at the top, I'm going to allow the knee to float up and pop it back down. So I'm feeling now that vertical thigh bone, that knee coming over the hip and popping back down. And I'm going for 4, and then I'm going to roll my spine back into the mat. And I'm going to go for 1 more step. Now if you prefer, you can stay up, you can do 8 at the top. So if you're feeling strong, go for the 8. But I'm going for the 4 again, rolling the spine back, peeling the spine away, opening up my hips, dropping my ribs in as I pause at the top. My gaze is to the ceiling. I'm breathing. So use the breath that helps you. If it feels better to breathe in as you lift, do so. If it feels better to breathe out, use that aided breath. Keep reaching that pelvis long. Slowly roll all the way back down into the mat. And hug your knees into your chest. Oh, that feels nice. So I'm just going to give myself a little roll around onto the mat, a little massage. So I hug my knees in. Excellent. Okay, so let's start with the upper body now. So we've warmed up the lower body, we put some mobilisation into the spine, into that lower body. And now what I want to do is do the same with the upper body. So I'm going to use my weights for the next section, but if you want to do this without, then you can. For those of you who cannot do flexion, you can do this whole part of the series with the head down. So when I'm lifting the chest, just keep your head down onto the mat, okay? And if you're just not feeling it today and you just want to do it with the head down, then go for that. So I'm going to take my 2 little weights or my can of beans or whatever I've got, and I'm going to start with my arms reaching up to the ceiling. So if you imagine yourself on your reformer now, your knees would be floating over your hips over the top of the footbar. And if you want to add challenge, lift the feet off, okay? So you can make it just as if you was on the reformer. I'm going to choose to keep my feet down because it's given me a little bit more release through the front of my hips, and it just feels a little bit more supportive for me today. And I'm keeping my arms right over my shoulders. So my wrists are over my shoulders, noticing that my arms aren't back behind my head. If anything, they're just slightly in front, where I'm kind of coming level with my breastbone. And then from here, I'm going to take a breath in. I'm going to lower my arms down by my sides as I breathe out, and then I'm going to breathe in to float the arms back up over the chest. So we're going lowering and lifting. So breathing out and breathing in, like a gust of wind, bringing me back up towards the ceiling. As I'm doing this, I'm just noticing whether arms are moving equally, whether it feels more challenging on one side to the other. I'm noticing where my knees are over my hips, my lower back is probably a little bit closer to the mat. And just what's happening in my shoulders as well, whether I can really feel them lifting, whether I'm staying wide through the front of the collarbones. I'm going to go for 2 more. And breathing in to come back up. Excellent. Now I'm going to start to add the flexion. If you don't want to lift the head, neck and shoulders, then just mimic the arms with me. So I'm going again, taking a breath in. As I breathe out, I'm going to slide my breastbone down, curl my ribs forwards and reach my dumbbells towards my chair. And then from here I'm going to come all the way back up, lowering myself back down into the mat. And again, breathing in, breathing out, breastbone slides, rib cage rolls forward. So I'm feeling those lower ribs almost as if they're tucking under my lungs. And then again, I'm lowering back down as I take that breath out. I'm going to do 2 more. Breathing in, and out. And again, breathing in. And that breath out as I curl up, deflating those balloons inside my rib cage. And lowering back through. Excellent. Now from here, I'm going to add in the angels and the openings. And I'm going to stay up in flexion when I do that. If you prefer to keep the head down, then do so. So I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to breathe out to round up, reaching my weights towards my sit bones. I'm going to take a breath in as I open my arms. I'm going to shoulder width, making sure I can see those dumbbells or tins of beans out of the corner of my eyes. Breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out to lower back down. So I'm staying up there for a more prolonged period of time. Let me bring those arms forwards. So let's go again, breathing in, out to peel away. A breath in to open, a breath out to close, a breath in to start to raise, and a breath out to lower. And I'm going to do 2 more like this. Open, close, and lower. And you'll notice when I come up, the tips of my shoulder blades are just hovering above the mat. Now if you want a little bit more challenge, you can stay up. And I'm going to go for 8. Open and close. Remember, keep your head down if you prefer. Just go for the 8. Blowing out. Every time you breathe out, see if you can connect a little bit more through that X. Sink a little bit deeper into the mat. Sink down through those abdominals. And I'm going to go for 2 more. And last one. Floating all the way back up. So this feels really nice for me. Usually when I'm on the reformer, my legs are up, my hip flexors get really grippy. So I really like having that chair there as a little bit more support. I can get into my abdominals more. So now I'm going to go with my arm circles. I'm going to take my arms down towards my thighs. I'm going to open out to the side and I'm going to circle my arms behind as I come back up. So I'm going forwards, circling around. I'm taking it all the way overhead today and bringing it back up. So adding a little bit of mobility into my shoulders. Again, you can drop the weights if it's feeling too challenging. Circling around and coming back up. And once I've done my 4, I'm going to reverse the direction. So I'm going to go back first, taking it overhead. Now, if you have any shoulder issues, if moving overhead is too much for you, then lessen the range. You don't have to go overhead. If you have any sort of shoulder impingements, taking it out to the side is too much, just go forwards and backwards. Just modify this where it suits you. Circles is feeling really nice for me today, and I'm going to go 1 more. Taking it back. And notice I'm not going all the way down to the floor. I'm going to do just 1 more to show you. Okay, so if I to go all the way down, I can feel my ribs start to pop up here. So what I need to do is drop that X in a little bit more, which means my weights come just above the floor. and then I'm going to circle in and float all the way back up. Brilliant. I'm going to drop them down, give my arms a little rest, and then I'm going to push myself up. Excellent. So, from here I'm going to go into a little feet in strap work. So I'm going to take my band and I'm going to remove my chair for this one. So I'm just going to place it to the side or to the end of my mat. So I've got a little bit more space. Okay. So, for my feet in strap work, I'm going to lay down back into the position that I was just in with my knees over my hips. And I'm going to place the band around my feet. So my band's quite short, I don't need to choke it up, but if you need to, you can wrap it around your hands a little bit more. This is a purple band, so it's quite a tough one. And I'm starting with my knees over my hips here, okay? So I'm back into that right angle position. Now from here, all I want you to do to start with is give the legs a little lengthen out. So I'm trying to keep my knees over my hips, lengthening through my hamstrings as I reach up to the ceiling. And then from there I'm going to ease off, dropping my feet down towards my sit bones as I keep my knees over my hips. Now the really important thing is to keep the knees over the hips here. You'll notice if I just kind of go in it, I'm on more of that diagonal angle, and as I come back in, it's really easy for me to bring my knees into my chest. I want you to focus on keeping the knees over the hips to get the hamstrings working a little bit more, especially on this downward phase. It's really easy to let it creep in and then slack off a little bit. And the image I like to give my class is if you think of yourself on an operating table and you've got that white screen in front of you. If when you bring your knees back in, they come close in, you're going to burst through that white screen. So what I want you to do is to keep your knees behind the screen, allow your heels to reach towards your sit bones and really engage the back of the legs. Now as I'm here, I'm noticing a little bit of tension in my upper body. So try not to hunch the shoulders up. See if you can let the shoulders drop in a little bit. It's a little bit harder when you're having to hold on to that band. Good, so we're just going for that little bend and stretch. Now on the next one we're going to hold up, and then from here we're going to lower the legs just slightly forwards and picking them back up. Now if you're doing this without a band, it can be quite challenging when you've got both legs. So you can modify this by just doing a single leg. So what you could do is take one foot down here. If you've got no band, the leg is up. You can be reaching it along this way, okay? And then you can change halfway through. So that's your modification if you don't have a band. If you do, carry on with me. So we've got the knees over the hips here, and we're sending the legs forwards to about a 45-degree angle. So what we're doing is we're engaging the abdominals a little bit more. The lower abdominals are working hard to stabilise us as the legs move further away from the body. And as you do allow the legs to go forwards, notice whether your ribs start to pop, whether that X is coming away from your back, whether you're flaring your ribs forwards, or whether you can keep connected into that mat underneath you. So if you're doing a single leg variation, I want you to change now. And you can go a little bit lower. You can take the legs a little bit lower, as long as you can keep that X into the back of the floor. As soon as you start to feel yourself lift, you know that it's too much for you. Okay, so modify where you need to. And I'm going to go for 2 more. So I'm breathing out on the way down. That's the challenge for me. And I'm breathing as I come back up. Let's go 1 more for luck. Reaching away. Good, and coming back up to the ceiling. Now from here, I'm going to turn into a V. So I'm bringing my heels together, and this time I'm going to bend in and allow my knees to come in towards my chest. So I'm going into a deeper hip flexion, a deeper crease. Now what I want to do is work the inside of my thighs here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to push through my heels and reach my legs back out to that 45 degree. And then from here I'm going to bend the knees in, knees reaching east and west, out to the sides, and then pushing away through the heels to engage my inner thighs. Now the more you can squeeze those heels together, the more engagement you will get on the inside of those legs. And again, take it a little lower if it feels good for you, but really think about kind of popping a water balloon in between your knees, in between your thighs. Push through the heel, reach the legs long, and we're going to go for 3 more. And I'm going to make this my last one, reaching it long. Excellent. Good. I'm going to bring the knees back together. I'm going to slip one foot out of the strap, place it down onto the floor, reach the other leg to the sky. And I'm just going to go for some single leg circles here now. Now when I do the circles, I'm thinking about keeping my pelvis still. So I'm reaching my leg long, moving it away from the midline of the body, circling the leg round and bringing it back to the centre. But you all know how much I love that image of a canoe. So I think of myself laying on a lovely sea in Thailand or Bali or somewhere, the Florida Keys, and I'm just keeping that little boat really nice and stable. So my pelvis is staying as quiet as possible. Doesn't have to be completely still. I don't need to fix anything or hold anything in place. But I want you to try and keep the hips level, try and keep it as quiet as possible as you allow that hip to circle, or the thigh bone to circle. So the circling is coming from the bone just swirling around or stirring around in the hip. Notice whether your other knee starts to spray out to the side. Can you really stand into that opposite leg? Use that opposite side to support you. And I'm going to go one more. I think I changed direction. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Changed direction halfway through. I'm going to switch legs. So I'm taking the other foot in, other foot comes down onto the floor. So you'll notice with me today I've stayed in that bent leg position on the opposite leg. You can add challenge by lengthening the leg out along the mat if you prefer. I'm just keeping that leg bent, just to give me a little bit more grounding, keep my hips from rocking from side to side. And as I said, we don't want to hold anything, we don't want to create tension in that body, so we don't want to fix that pelvis, but we just want to try and lessen the wobble. And then I'm going to reverse direction, going the other way out first, coming back across that midline. The whole time I'm trying to reach the crown of my head long towards the back of the room as I reach my leg away. And be very careful as well that you're not gripping intensely through that hip flexor. See if you can let that leg go in the band. Let the band just support it. Let the hip flexor go rather than just really pinching into it. I'm going to go one more. I'm coming back up to the ceiling and I'm going to bend my leg in. Brilliant, that's our feet in strap work done. So I'm going to place my band to the side and I'm going to come to a kneeling position now. So we do lots of arm work on the reformer and we can mimic that. So I'm going to come to a kneeling position. For those of you who aren't comfortable on your knees, cannot be on your knees for any reason, you can sit yourself back onto your chair. So the chair that we used at the beginning, take a seat onto that and you can do this whole series in a seated position instead. So it's a really nice one to be able to modify. I'm going to use my can of beans or my little dumbbells that I've got, and I'm going to start by checking on my position. I've got a little bit of space in between my knees. My hips are shining forwards, my shoulders are, so I'm nice and square on towards you. And I'm just holding my arms down by my sides. My pelvis is over my knees, and I can feel a little bit of engagement in my glutes, but I'm not squeezing the dear life out of them, okay? I can feel this switched on to keep me in this position, but I'm not squeezing my bottom, okay? I'm just kind of using it to keep me in this position. Now, all I want you to do to start with, arms are lovely and long, collarbones are wide. I'm going to allow the arms to float forwards and I'm going to go both together. If you need to modify, do one arm at a time. So I'm going to bring the arms forwards, just coming to shoulder height, feeling my collarbone roll forwards and then bring the arms back down by my sides. And again, I'm going forwards and back down by my sides. And I'm using an out breath as I go forwards because that is causing my core to engage a little bit more. An in breath as I come back through. So as I breathe out, I can feel my abdominals drawing together. And as I breathe in and lower the weights, I can feel them releasing. As I breathe out, as I take them forwards, I'm adding more challenge as those arms move away from that midline. And I'm going to go for about 3 more. So we're still thinking about that little X right in the centre. It's almost as if it's pressing on a wall behind you this time. And I'm going to make this my last one. And coming back in. Brilliant. Now from here, I'm going to take the arms forwards. I'm going to start in this position. I'm going to turn my arms over. And I'm going to send my arms back. So they're coming now just slightly behind. So I'm getting a nice opening up through the front of the chest. It's almost as if my palms are pushing back, but as I'm taking the arms behind, I'm being mindful that I'm not then popping my ribs forwards to cheat a little bit. I really want to think about that chest open and expanding as the arms go back. And I'm going to go for 2 more, and then I'm going to add that little head turning. So it gives us a really nice little stretch through the neck, adds that little neurological aspect in. So I'm going to go 1 more, I'm going to take them back. Arms stay behind, I've turned my head to the side, to the centre, to the side, to the centre, and release my arms forwards. And I'm going to do that 3 more times. Arms feeling back, collarbone rolling, to the side, to the centre, to the side, to the centre, and arms reaching forwards. And I'm going to go for 2 more. To the side, to the centre, to the side, to the centre. And again, I'm using the breath out as I go back to stop my ribs flaring forwards. I'm using that aided breath. To the side, to the centre, to the side, to the centre, and releasing forwards. Good, bring your arms down by your side. Take a rest for a moment. For the next set, I'm going to bring my arms in. So I'm turning my palms up now. Bring my elbows into my waist and going for that sort of right angle at the elbow. So I'm not all the way down here, I'm not all the way up here. I'm creating that 90-degree like I did at the hip. My collarbones are wide, my chest is smiling, and then from here I'm going to open out to the side and close back in. So I'm going into the rotator cuff. So what I want you to think about what is happening at the top of the arm. So what's happening here is the shoulder is spiralling to allow the arm to open out. It's not the elbow that is moving, it's the top of the arm to allow the opening of the chest. So those tiny little intrinsic muscles, the ones that support up through the top of the shoulder girdle, this is the ones we're working on now. Okay, those really important ones that we don't always work. And I'm going to go for about 2 more, keeping my elbows as close as I can in towards my waist. And then on the next one, I'm going to open the arms out. I'm going to reach the arms forwards on a long diagonal. So I'm looking for a V, and then I'm going to bring the arms back in. And I'm going to reach forwards. Remember, you can do this from your chair. And I'm going to reach forwards, coming back in. Then I'm using that out breath as I reach away. Just coming to about shoulder height. Going for 2 more. And on my next one, I'm going to stay there. I'm going to reach the arms out. I'm going to roll in through the shoulder, so I'm now dropping inside of the elbow, shining forwards, and I'm going to bring my arms in, touching the tips of my fingertips together. So it's as if I'm hugging around a tree, and then I'm going to open the arms wide. Now my glutes are still engaged to keep me in this tall position. My pubic bone is still forwards. Nothing has changed in my spine alignment. We're just changing the position of the shoulder and where we're working into the arm. I'm going to go for 3 more. I apologise if I've done more than 8. You know what I'm like. And I'm going 1 more here. Well done. Floating the arms back down by my sides. Brilliant. So I'm just going to add a little bit of leg movement in now. For those of you who are seated on the chair, just do the arm work, repeat the arms. So we're going to go back to the one we did at the beginning. So I'm taking the arms forwards and bringing them back down in towards my waist. So for me, as my arms are going forward, I'm taking a seat down towards my heels. And as the arms come back, I'm sitting back up with my pelvis over my knees. So I'm going forwards and sending that pelvis forwards and coming back up. And I'm going for about 3 or 4 more. So I can really feel my glutes start to work now. Those muscles in my bottom engaging to send my pelvis up. And let's go for 2 more. And last one. Good. Now I'm going to stay stay here. I'm going to reach the arms forwards and I'm going to do a little set of bicep curls here. So for my bicep curls, I'm going to add a thigh stretch. If you're seated on the chair, just do the arm work. But if you want to come into the thigh stretch, I'm going to turn side on so you can see me. So you can see my pelvis is over my knees. I'm reaching my arms forwards to shoulder height, but you can bring them lower if you need to modify. I'm going to curl my arms in, and as I do, keeping a straight back, I'm going to lean back and then reach forwards to lengthen the arms. Now the important thing is to keep that straight back as you're leaning forwards, or as you're leaning backwards. So if you think about a piece of wood from your head right down through the back of your pelvis, so that you're not pushing the ribs forwards and arching the spine, it's lovely and straight. You want to think all of those back of those ribs keeping connected to that piece of wood. And again, if you're in this position and you don't want to do the thigh stretch, just stay into that high knee in. And I'm going to go 2 more. Oh, my thighs are feeling this one, and last one. Reaching it forwards and lengthening the arms down. If you enjoyed that, you can do a second set. But I'm going to move us on from that one. Well done. Okay, so I think it's time to add a nice little bit of stretching in and kind of wind it down a little bit. So I'm going to go into a little mermaid stretch from here. So today I'm going to take my knees stacked one on top of the other. If you prefer, you want to sit into that Z-sit position, then you can, if that feels nice into your hips. But I'm going to have my knees stacked one on top of the other, properly like a mermaid on a rock. So I'm sending my towel away, I've got my hand on my rock here. And again, if you're seated on a chair, you can do this on the chair instead if your hips don't feel comfortable. And you can just do your sway from side to side. So I've got my hand down onto the mat, I'm reaching my other arm long. And then from here I'm going to take the arm up, I'm going to take a little stretch over, and then push back up to tall. And then again taking it over, bending down into my elbow as I do, and reaching it long. Taking it over. I'm taking a lovely breath in as I go over, thinking about finding space in my rib cage. Dropping my elbow close to the floor, so I'm getting a little bit of a tricep work here as well, in the opposite arm. And I'm going to make this the last one. Good. On the next one, I'm going to take it over here. I'm not going to bend into the arm, I'm just going to really reach. And I'm going to wrap around and unravel back to the front. So I'm adding some rotation into my work here. And opening. Again, you can do this seated on your chair. Rounding over. So I'm actually thinking about reaching my fingertips around to my other fingertips. I'm not thinking about going underneath. Okay, I'm thinking about wrapping around that big beach ball in front of me to really open up the back of my shoulder. And I'm just going to go 1 more. So if having your hand on the floor, if you have any shoulder issues, doing this on your chair is a really nice way of doing it as well. And then from there I'm going to come back up and I'm going to take a little counter stretch the other way. Now this is the toughest part. We're going to breathe it through for 10. 4 seconds to go. And 1. Releasing it down. Brilliant. Let's switch the legs around to the other side. So again, either stacked one on top of the other or into your Z-sit if you prefer. If you're onto your chair, just sitting nice and square, hips on. In fact, let me get the chair quickly just to show you. Just in case you were confused when we did it the other side. So we're here. Yep, you can do your little stretch over. And when we come to do the rotation, it's coming around. So there's no pressure on the shoulder there either if you do have any shoulder issues. So let's do the other side. Down onto the floor. So getting that little tricep work if you want to. Hand down, so you can see I'm taking my arm slightly away from my shoulder. It's not right underneath. I don't feel like I can get much into it if I do that. Whereas here I can bend into it, I can get a little bit more tricep work. So my wrist is just slightly away from my shoulder. My ribs are lifted, yeah? I'm not just dropping into it. You can see that my shoulder is working and engaging to keep me up and lifted away from the mat. And I'm feeling a little bit of work here already. I'm drawing my ribs in towards me as my other arm then comes up. Taking a stretch over, bending into that tricep, and pushing away, and I'm looking at my palm as I come over. You don't have to. Just getting a little bit of work through the neck at the same time. And again, dropping down. I'm going to go for a couple more. So I can really feel this working into my tricep. I feel this a lot when I'm on the reformer into my pushing arm, the arm that is working on the foot bar. And I'm going to do one more. Good, and the next one I'm going to hold it over. So I'm keeping the arm straight this time. I'm then rotating around, and then I'm going to unravel my spine and come back to centre. So if you think a lighthouse beacon in the centre of your chest, ravel your lighthouse around, shine it to the outside of the rim, and then bring it back to the centre as you shine it forwards. So rib cage rotates and comes back. So as I'm turning, I'm feeling my right ribs coming forwards this side, my left ribs rolling back. And I'm going to go for one more. I'm going to unravel back to the centre, press all the way back up, take that counter stretch to the other side. Oh, we're so tight this side. Okay, and I'm holding for 10. Just let that head follow the natural curve of the spine. Feel as if you can really get that breath in here, so expand your ribcage wide as well as long. Blowing the air out. And coming back to centre. Well done, release the arms down. I'm going to lay down now. In fact, no, I'm going to do a little kneeling series first. Okay, so I'm going to go into quadruped, just so we don't neglect the rest of the back today. So I'm bringing my wrists under my shoulders, my knees under my hips. Again, if you have kneeling issues, if you've got shoulder issues, being in this weight supported here, then lay down onto the floor and you can do your swimming here, okay? So we're thinking arms slightly forwards, opposite arm to leg just floating. And head is slightly hovered away, so that's your modification. If you're coming into the full version, we're going to draw the abdominals up, okay? So think about a little cat holding its kittens in its pouch. I want you to really feel your ribs drawing in and up towards you to keep those little kittens safe, like a little Joey in a pouch. And then from there, you're going to allow the left leg to slide along the mat, right arm reaches forwards, and then you're going to hover it just above the mat here, trying to keep that pelvis level and bringing it back underneath. And then we're going to change to the other side. So we're alternating between sides. And coming back. So this is really good. This is a full body exercise. It's challenging shoulder stability, it's challenging abdominals, it's working all those little postural muscles down the back of the spine. We're opening up the hips as we send the leg away. We're challenging pelvic stability, trying to keep the pelvis level in the centre. And if you think inside thigh to the ceiling. Good. Now, we remember that little X that we have on the floor. We're now going to think about it in this position. Okay, so you're drawing those abdominals in and up to that little pouch, keeping that X right in the centre. And I'm just going to go for one more. You notice that I'm turning my thumb to the ceiling just to kind of open up my shoulder a little bit more. Well done. Take a little child's pose stretch here. Open out that lower back. You can stay here for as long as you want. We'll reach those arms forwards. It's quite nice if you've got a foam roller or something, you can pop your hands on that just to kind of get into the stretch a little bit more. And then slowly rolling yourself up. So I'm just going to finish with two nice stretches because we've done quite a lot of work today. So I'm going to finish with a figure of four stretch. So we're going to lay down onto our back. I'm taking my right foot over my left knee, and that may be enough for some of you, just dropping the knee out to the side, putting the hip into external rotation. For those of you who want a little bit more, you can float the left leg away, hands come through, and you're going to draw that in towards you. So I'm feeling that lovely stretch into the outside of my hip, into the back of my glute as well. Now I like to try and keep my head onto the floor for this one, but I know it's not completely possible for everyone. everybody, so prop yourself up on a block if you need it. I'm very lucky I've got quite mobile hips. Good. And we're going to hold here for a little bit longer. And I know everybody's really keen to get out of stretching as quickly as possible, but we really want to keep it for at least 30 seconds to make any change or any benefit. So let's stay here for a little bit more. Find a song you really like for stretching, something you can kind of sing along to, do a verse or a couple of verses, and find something you really like to chill out to hold into that stretch. Now every time you breathe out, see if you can pull in or drop in a little bit more. Excellent. I'm going to change legs. So I'm now taking my left leg over my left foot over my right knee. I'm going to draw the knees in towards me, pushing that knee out to the side to open that hip a little bit more, floating this leg up. You can also do this stretch seated on your chair. So you can sit, cross the foot over the knee and lean forwards if you're fed up of being on the floor and you just want to sit up on your chair today. Let's stay here for just a little bit more, enjoying that stretch. Nearly done. And release. Well done. So I'm going to keep my knees bent into this semi-supine position. And then from here I'm going to take my arms out by my side, just opening my chest, turning my palms to the ceiling. I'm going to allow my knees to drop over to the right side, so I'm rolling onto the outside edge of my foot. My pelvis is moving, my hip is lifting away, and I don't have to get my knees all the way down to the floor, I'm just going within the range that works for me. Then from here I'm taking my knees are over to the right side. I'm going to take my left arm and I'm going to circle it around, and as I do, I'm going to bring my shoulder over, roll onto my side and come into my book opening position. Then from there I'm going to reach my arm forwards, take my arm up to the sky and come over into my book opening stretch. So I've got my knees to one side, my arm reaching to the opposite direction and feeling that lovely stretch through my chest. Then from here I'm going to try and put my arm back down to the floor and I'm going to roll my knees back through centre. So I probably should have done it facing you first of all, that might be easier. So let's go again. So I'm going to drop my knees now to my left side. I'm keeping looking to the ceiling. You can drop your head in the opposite direction if that feels nice to get that rotation all the way through the spine. And then from there I'm going to circle that arm overhead, the opposite arm, the right arm. As I do, I'm rolling my body over so my hips are stacked one on top of the other. I'm now into my book openings position. Now if you want to, pop a block underneath your head because this might feel better for you doing it that way. I'm then going to reach that arm forwards, protracting it out of the shoulder socket, taking my arm up, curling over as I gaze at my fingertips. And then from there I'm going to bring my knees with me and come all the way back through centre. So remember, protect your neck, put that block under your head or a towel or something if you need it. And let's go one more the other way. Knees dropping to the right. Left arm then floats overhead, circling motion, rolling the hips, arms stacked one on top of the other. Protract the shoulder forwards as you reach it, let the head roll, nose to the floor. Arm comes up, follow the fingertips with the gaze, open the chest, reach the arm long, and roll the knees back to centre. Now if the rolling of the knees doesn't work, just go for your normal book openings. If you just prefer the knee rolling stretch, then choose that. Okay, remember you can always modify by just taking part of the exercise if it's better. I'm going to go one more to the other side. I'm going to roll the knees over. Then from here, I'm taking the arm overhead, circling round, rolling my hips, knees stacked one on top of the other. Arm protracts forwards, comes up and over, head turning, chest opening, knees staying over. And then from there, I'm going to roll down. My ribs coming into the floor, my hips coming level, my pelvis coming level, back to the centre. I'm going to reach my legs long. I'm just going to let my hips open and drop out, and I'm going to keep my arms reaching wide. I'm just going to take a few moments to breathe, noticing how my body feels, how it feels from one side compared to the other, how my arms feel, how my legs feel, where my body is in relation to the mat. If I feel a little bit more spacious through the chest, where my X is in the back, whether I feel deeper into the mat, whether I feel more tense. And I'm just going to take those 3 moments to just let myself sink, let myself be, let myself open. Just blowing the air back into the room. And releasing. Well done, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed that reformer style class, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to doing our reformer stuff soon. So well done, great work. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time for our next class.